Hey y'all, welcome to the channel. Today we're checking out best Philomena Cunk moments. I almost said the other C word.
Who are you?
I'm Ian Borden. I'm a professor of architecture at University College London.
What is a building?
A building is anything that anyone has built.
So my shoes are a building.
She's starting off strong. Great questions. What is a building? By that man's definition, her shoes would be a building.
How many three wise men were there?
Who knows?
She keeps such a straight face.
I don't understand bread sauce.
It's a great way of making a really savoury sauce.
Bread and sauce are two completely different things, aren't they?
Well, they are, but you can grind the bread down and then cook it in milk to make a really good sauce.
It just looks like sort of cheese.
It looks like he's stifling a laugh. He's also disappointed in her, and he's trying to figure out how to respond because he knows he's on camera. Way to go, Philomena. Or Diane Morgan, I should say.
When Henry died, Edward became king, aged just 9 years old.
Edward died aged 15, the youngest anyone had ever died of old age. When you teach your kids Shakespeare, do their heads grow physically bigger?
No.
That's the face of a man who wants to tell her that she is so dumb. He must know who she is, right? He must know. He looks very annoyed.
No.
It's comforting, isn't it, to realise we don't have nuclear weapons these days?
Well, it depends who you mean by we. The British have got nuclear weapons and have recently indeed decided to increase the number of warheads that they possess.
Yeah, but they're blanks, aren't they? They're full of blanks.
No, not at all. No. These are fully capable missile systems with nuclear warheads. Many other states have them. I'm afraid that nuclear war and the threat of nuclear destruction remains very much with us.
Wonderful.
Right, can we talk about something a bit more cheerful?
Anything you like.
Do you like ABBA?
I love ABBA.
She's a really good actor too. She's not just funny, she's a great actor. Well done.
Do you like ABBA?
I love ABBA.
When a feminist looks in the mirror, do they see an equal woman or a better woman?
They quite often, like all of us, look for what they want to see and they look for what they hope to see.
You see yourself back to front, don't you, in a mirror? But not upside down. Why is that?
Well, hopefully, because that's the way that mirrors are designed.
What power's a mirror? Sorry, you're not the mirrors expert, are you? And to
This poor woman is presented with some totally paradoxical questions, and she's doing a great job of holding it together.
Sorry, you're not the mirrors expert, are you? And to add insult to injury, that money will most likely have a picture of a man on it, because most banknotes don't have women on them, apart from the Queen, who's on all of them. Maybe one day, human beings won't need buildings anymore. Although, for that to happen, we'd probably need to evolve skins made of bricks. And that might take at least another 30 years.
Beth is startled at dinner by the unexpected appearance of Banquo's ghost, played here for some reason by the letter H.
Which of you have done this?
But what was so great about Henry VIII? Why is he the king we all still remember, unlike, say, Richard V? Well, for one thing, he was fat, so he takes up more room in the memory.
So the Andromeda Galaxy is going to hit us.
The Andromeda Galaxy, a whole galaxy is going to hit us.
Yeah. On about the same time scale, actually.
So could we fall down a black hole?
Yeah, you could fall into one.
Is that the same? Because I heard that you could be, if, this is one way that the world could end, is that we're all just sucked off through a hole.
That
must be terrible. Can you imagine what it would feel like to be sucked off through a hole?
Yeah.
Back in Queen Victorian time,
I recognize him. I think his name is Brian Cox. He's a physicist, I think. He's doing a good job of holding it together. Good job, Dr. Cox.
Back in Queen Victorian times, women weren't allowed to vote, even though we had a female king. So some women formed a gang called the suffragettes.
1 in 20 people
A
has
gang.
been a victim of crime, which means that 19 out of 20 people are criminals. No wonder we need police.
Over the centuries, many things have been used as money, including amber, wheat, eggs, travellers' checks, feathers, book vouchers, lobsters, beads, gold, leather, nectar points, rice, peas, mugs and money.
It was only the last of these that caught on.
It's almost unbelievable that before Charles Darwin invented evolution in 1859, no one had ever evolved. Without him, none of us would be here today, except in the form of fossils or gibbons.
This is the National Theatre. It's designed to look so horrible that people are glad to be inside watching boring plays.
Today, Britain stands at a fork in its crossroads, and its people are asking questions. Now we've got our country back. What actually is it? Who are we and why?
You know when you read a word,
Who are we and why?
you know when you read a word in a book and you sort of hear that word in your head, how do they get the sounds into the ink to make it play in your head?
Well,
She wrote, "The world to an end will come in 1881, a claim which has recently been debunked by experts through a careful process of looking around and seeing the world still here." Today, some people choose to turn the outside of their homes into a giant advent crown. A jolly house covered in electric lights may be expensive and use a lot of power, but it's the perfect way to cheer up a world worried about climate change and dwindling resources.
Ouch.
Queen Elizabeth I got a crown screwed on here in Westminster Abbey.
Her crown screwed on. Wow.
It was in this ship Drake became the first person to circumcise the globe, which is probably why this sort of ship is called a clipper. People genuinely believed
Wow. I just need a moment to catch up.
witches were amongst them, their fear fueled by leaked photos like this.
Did an explorer ever try to sail into the sky? You know, find a bit of sea that's sort of going up and...
No.
No.
We're often told to feel sorry for those who are alone at Christmas, but these days that's all of us, and it's brilliant.
Why did Nelson always have one hand up his jumper? What was he doing up there?
He'd lost most of his right arm, so
The pagans celebrated the solstice by cutting down holly and ivy and dragging it into their homes, along with a giant Yule log which they'd set fire to. It sounds rubbish, but with no app store to speak of, killing trees and plants was as good as entertainment got, even at Christmas. Despite being the stuff of nightmares, Santa is the world's most popular home intruder. But at Christmas 1914, there was a brief ceasefire. The fighting stopped. Soldiers got out of their holes and joined together in a place called No Man's Land, showing that even at moments of peace, men will still divide into two sides and try to beat one another.
Okay.
Economists
Part two.
think that they can build.
Let's go, girls.
Sorry about that.
So this was a very popular
Sorry.
one, which would go like this. My old man said, follow the van and don't dilly-dally on the way. That sort of rhythm was very popular.
So why was that considered entertaining? Why did they fire shells at each other? Because shells wouldn't really hurt, would they? Unless they were those razor clam shells, because they're quite sharp, aren't they?
well, these weren't seashells.
If Shelley's one of the greatest poets in English literature, how come nobody gives a shit about him today?
That's a complicated question.
That's probably his life's work, and she just said no one cares. This poor man.
That's a complicated question.
Austen wrote novels, which are books, which look like this on the outside and this on the inside. Filled with words it's almost impossible to care about.
Queen Victoria was born in 1819 in the usual way, out of a woman. It was hard to tell that this infant would grow up to be queen because her crown hadn't yet formed. It was just hair, which must have been a relief to her mother as she was pushing her out. Thanks to the big sell-off, anyone could get rich, providing they had loads of spare money already, a system still in use to this day.
Wait, what?
What do you want?
Is there? Okay. I need to turn on the captions for her sometimes. I don't understand.
Loads of spare money already, a system still in use to this day.
Why do you want to turn a pig into a cow?
Just see what it's like.
Since his Victorian origins, Sherlock Holmes himself has regenerated many times and in many different forms throughout history, from drawings to black and white man, to a black and white man in colour, into a cricketer, and even an alien. Who was the Darth Vader of the Empire? Was it Queen Victoria?
You probably wouldn't have had anyone quite as powerful as Darth Vader, as, if you like, a supreme leader.
What about Luke Skywalker?
I think many people would have liked to have undertaken a Skywalker-like role as a saviour. There probably weren't too many of those around.
Chewbacca?
No, I think that's stretching it.
He was one of the greatest orators of all time, and some of the phrases he used still resonate today, such as finest hour, never surrender, and of course, we shall fight them bitches.
Hello, who are you?
I'm Doran Swade. I'm a historian of computing, and I was responsible for building this engine.
So what games does it have?
It doesn't have any games.
It must have like some basic games like Mario Kart or Snake or,
I'm afraid
or
not.
Patience, like the shittest one. It must have Patience.
I'm afraid it doesn't.
It doesn't have any games.
Whatever. It just does mathematical calculation.
I'll choose important.
So it's not significant.
Okay, so this guy has been in on it, and he's trying not to laugh. Okay. A lot of these people being interviewed must know who she is, and they must know that she's joking. But the producers must tell them to not laugh to make it work. I think they're in on it. They got to be in on it, right?
Who's Ron?
Ron. Is there a Ron?
Yeah, the one that wrote all the poems and signed them Byron.
Yeah, that was his family name, Byron. Lord George Byron.
Oh, right, okay.
Jane Austen died in 1817, only to be reincarnated 200 years later in the form of this banknote. The Victorians had horse-drawn buses, but you never see horses drawing anything these days, do you? When did they lose the ability to draw? Is it when their hands sort of turned into hooves? On his journey, he visited the Noel Gallagher's Islands and came up with a theory that animals that were dead were less likely to reproduce than ones that were alive. The first Sherlock Holmes story was such a hit, Conan Doyle wrote 55 sequels, which is 4 more than The Fast and the Furious. Although in the Sherlock Holmes stories, some stuff happens that isn't skidding. Eventually, Darwin evolved himself into a corpse. He was buried here in Westminster Abbey before evolving again into worms and dust. Why did they call World War I? It's quite pessimistic numbering, isn't it? Or did they just know it was the start of a franchise? We don't even know if Jack the Ripper was his real name, or just a nickname like 50 Cent. We don't know when he died, or if he died. It's chilling to think that Jack the Ripper could still be alive today, living somewhere out there under his real name. Maybe he's one of your friends or neighbours, or maybe he's you. Which was your favourite of the romantics?
Probably Byron, I would think. Byron was the bad boy of the romantic poets. It's thought that he probably slept with his sister and with most other women in England.
He was your favourite?
Yeah.
The one who slept with his sister?
Well, it's not on that basis that I like him. I was just giving you a bit of background.
Emmerdale Pankhurst thought women could be more than just wives and mothers, so she deliberately only had 5 children leaving her loads of time for politics. Radio was an exciting new invention that made it possible to hear other people's voices in your living room without the use of thin walls or a devastating mental condition. Eventually, women did get the vote after the next bit of history. But I can't skip past the next bit because the next bit is war, and men will find that interesting.
Along the way, I'll be shouting at helicopters. The First World War was started by the killing of one man, Franz Ferdinand. You've probably never heard of him, or the band named after him. But he was dead important, by which I mean he was only important when he was dead.
Luckily, a man called John Logie Baird was about to give birth to television, not literally out of his vagina, but metaphorically out of his shed. Inspector Phillips.
What is Inspector Phillips?
Oh, I made that one up. That was just a trick question.
Okay, well, it didn't work.
Sounds real, though, doesn't it? Inspector Phillips.
No, I instantly knew that it wasn't a real one.
Less successful with the Suez Crisis.
What was up with the sewers? Did someone try to flush something that was awful?
No, the Suez Canal.
What, the canals used to be sewers? That's disgusting.
No, Suez. It's a place.
Oh, right. Luckily, Britain had a hero on its side, a man whose name will never be forgotten, Winston Churchill.
In the war, there were lots of songs taking the piss out of Hitler, weren't there? How come they don't sing those sorts of songs anymore?
Well, he's not around anymore, so it's not so amusing.
Where is he?
Well, he's dead.
He's dead?
Yes.
Oh, right, so it'd be disrespectful to...
Well, not so much disrespectful as pointless, really.
Pointless.
A bit pointless.
Yeah.
What made the war harder was that we didn't know what the Germans were planning, because they said it in a sort of
She
cold
came from
language.
behind a tree. Hang on,
Pointless.
sorry.
A bit pointless.
Yeah.
What made the war harder was that we didn't know what the Germans were planning, because they said it in a sort of code language known as German.
And
Right.
also, walking somewhere impressive with my mouth shut, while my voice speaks anyway, like I'm talking aloud in my own head. During this Suez crisis, events in Suez reached crisis point. More research needed. Make sure script amended before voiceover record. But Heath soon found himself facing a financial crisis, the likes of which the world only sees about every 10 years or so. Was there a miniskirt for men? You know, like trousers that just stopped under the balls?
No, there wasn't a miniskirt for men.
Seems like a shame.
For whom?
For men. On my odyssey, I'll be starting sentences in one location
And finishing them in another.
My face hurts from constant smiling and laughing. Those jokes go by so quick. It would be so hard to be interviewed by her and not laugh. That must happen all the time. Excellent work, Diane Morgan. Excellent work, Charlie Booker. I need to check out some other Diane Morgan stuff. Really funny video. Thank y'all for recommending. Thank y'all for watching, and I'll see you next time. Later.